Tyler Reddick celebrated his third consecutive win at COTA, climbing from his number 45 Toyota as the circuit of the Americas grandstands roared. 6 races into the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season, he had already claimed Daytona, Atlanta, and now COTA. The victory lane ceremony unfolded with the precision of a team that expects to win every week. 11,000 feet away, inside the same garage, Bubba Wallace's number 23 car was pushed behind the wall on lap 12. Power steering fluid had bled out of the system, and what began as a promising afternoon ended with a silent driver sitting on the pit wall while his teammate hoisted another trophy. The math from that single weekend was immediate and severe. Reddick was first in points, Wallace dropped from second to ninth in one race. The question that framed everything: how does one mechanical failure change a career trajectory? To understand why that question landed with such force, you have to look at the version of Bubba Wallace that arrived in Austin. Wallace entered the COTA weekend with legitimate momentum. Through the first 5 races of 2026 he had not won, but he had finished inside the top 10 in all but one event, and he sat second in the championship standings. The consistency was unlike anything he had produced in previous seasons. His practice speeds at COTA reinforced the optimism. He posted the 6th fastest lap in opening practice, and the number 23 Toyota showed the kind of rotation needed through the S's that separates contenders from also-rans. Booty Barker, his crew chief, spoke on the radio with a calm confidence that suggested the team believed a road course breakthrough was possible. That belief was not unfounded, but it also carried heavy context. His career average finish on road courses is 21.8 across 38 starts. COTA was one of only 4 road courses on the 2026 schedule, and every such race represented a disproportionate share of the playoff math. The team's preparation and the speed shown in practice made the weekend feel like a genuine opportunity to rewrite a statistical weakness, and the confidence heading into qualifying reflected that. Qualifying delivered a solid mid-pack starting position of 14th. It was not a pole, but on a track where passing is possible with the right car, it was a launching pad. The first 11 laps of Sunday's race confirmed the practice data. Wallace moved forward methodically, climbing to 12th place by lap 10. His lap times were competitive with the leaders, and the Toyota was rotating cleanly through the tight complexes. The exact moment came on lap 12, a sudden loss of power steering fluid. On the team radio, Wallace's voice carried the particular tone drivers use when something feels wrong but is not yet identifiable. "The steering is getting heavy. Really heavy," he said. Barker and the engineering team diagnosed the failure within seconds. A track that features 20 turns, many of them high-load corners requiring constant steering input, becomes undrivable without power assist. The crew had no choice. The decision was made to bring the car behind the wall for repairs, costing 11 laps. The repair required the team to replace components buried deep in the front end, and by the time the number 23 returned to the track, the race was effectively over. Wallace completed 57 of 68 laps solely to collect data. Wallace finished 36th, 11 laps down. What makes this particular failure more damaging than a crash is the absence of driver error. A crash provides a narrative target: the driver pushed too hard, made a mistake, and can correct it. A mechanical failure removes that agency. Wallace did nothing wrong, yet his season absorbed the full consequence of a part that failed. The narrative shifts from what the driver controls to what the organization provides, and that shift inevitably raises questions about the equipment and the program surrounding the driver. The points swing reshaped his season instantly. Before COTA, Wallace sat second in standings, 41 points above the cut line. After COTA, he dropped to 9th, now only 16 points above the cut line. The midfield compressed with brutal efficiency. 7 drivers now sit within 30 points of his position. With 9 races remaining before the playoffs, the margin for error that existed 6 races into the year has essentially evaporated. The calendar does not offer relief. Among those 9 events are the Chicago Street Course, a race that punished Wallace last season, and the Brickyard, where his career average finish sits at 22.4. One more 0-point day, even through no fault of his own, could drop him below the playoff elimination line. This organization, 2311 Racing, expects both cars in playoffs, and that expectation now rests on a shrinking cushion. The unavoidable comparison standing across the garage makes every Wallace result carry extra weight. Reddick's average finish is 4.2, Wallace's is 14.8. Reddick leads Wallace in every meaningful statistical category this season: wins, top fives, stage points, and laps led. The organizational dynamic is no longer about building a competitive team. It is about sustaining a championship operation. Reddick is delivering that standard weekly. Wallace is delivering results that, while improved, still create a gap that the team cannot ignore. After the COTA race, Reddick acknowledged his teammates' struggles while celebrating, but the split screen of one driver doing roof dances while the other watches from the garage has become the defining image of 23XI racing in 2026. Michael Jordan's competitive philosophy is well documented. Winning is the expectation, not the goal. In previous sports ventures, Jordan has shown loyalty to players who produce, but that loyalty has always been tied to performance. Adding pressure to the equation is the personnel reality already announced for next season. Corey Heim's confirmed arrival at 23XI Racing in 2027 adds a new layer. Heim, 24 years old, has been winning races in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and represents exactly the profile ownership seeks: young talent with a lower financial cost than an established Cup veteran. The team has publicly framed the move as expansion, with a third entry, the number 35 Toyota, being prepared. The official statement is, "We're building forward, not replacing." However, NASCAR history provides multiple examples of planned expansions that became quiet transitions. Running 3 full-time Cup cars demands a massive and sustained financial commitment, and if any portion of that equation wobbles, the third car never materializes, and the new driver slides into an existing seat. The contract timeline makes this especially relevant. Wallace's contract runs through 2026 with an option. That option creates a natural decision point, and every race between now and that decision supplies evidence for whichever direction the team chooses. The statements from inside the organization after COTA did not quiet the speculation. Denny Hamlin said, "Mechanical failures happen. We don't overreact to one weekend." The words addressed the part failure, not the long-term future. Noticeably absent was any language about commitment to Wallace beyond the immediate recovery. Booty Barker expressed the frustration in simpler terms: "We gave away points we can't get back." That sentence captures the cost without offering reassurance. Michael Jordan has not spoken publicly about Wallace in months, a silence that contrasts with how he has openly praised Reddick's performances. The team's social media accounts posted supportive messages focused on bouncing back, but industry analysts remain split between those who call the discussion premature and those who see a concerning pattern forming. Sponsors such as McDonald's, Columbia Sportswear, and Moneyline have not wavered, and commercial partnerships often signal organizational confidence. But sponsor patience in NASCAR is finite, and it is tied to visibility, which in turn is tied to running up front. The counterpoints deserve acknowledgement because they are rooted in fact. Wallace signed a multi-year extension in 2024, and that contract still has time remaining. The 2026 season is only 6 races old. 20 points-paying events remain, along with multiple intermediate tracks where Wallace has historically performed well. The playoff format rewards a single win with automatic advancement, and Wallace does not need to be perfect across the full regular season. He has overcome worse situations before, including a 2-lap deficit at the San Diego Street Course in 2025 that he turned into a second-place finish. Team chemistry inside the number 23 group appears intact despite the mechanical failure, and the market reality is that there is no obvious available driver who would clearly outperform Wallace in the same equipment. Beyond results, 23XI's investment in Wallace goes beyond race results, including marketing and visibility value that few other drivers in the garage deliver. Yet the uncomfortable truth remains. The expectations at 23XI Racing have fundamentally changed since 2024. When the team was founded, simply making the playoffs represented progress. Now, Tyler Reddick has raised the bar to championships. Wallace's winless streak has become impossible to ignore. Wallace hasn't won a Cup race since 2022, and in a 2026 calendar that means 4 full years without a trip to victory lane. Every race without a win adds pressure that cannot be relieved by top 10 consistency. The mechanical failure at COTA matters precisely because Wallace has no margin for error left to absorb bad luck. When a driver is winning, a DNF is classified as misfortune. When a driver is not, that same DNF becomes another data point in a narrative that questions whether the performance gap will ever close. The conversation around Wallace has shifted from when will he win to will he survive, and the timeline for answering that question is the remainder of this season. The Chicago street race, the summer Daytona event, and the playoffs themselves are now proving grounds, not merely checkpoints. The COTA mechanical failure did not create the pressure that surrounds Wallace. It exposed how much pressure was already there, built up over years of near misses and the constant comparison with a teammate who was delivering exactly what the organization was designed to achieve. Wallace is not losing his ride tomorrow or next week, but the conversation has fundamentally changed, and the remainder of 2026 is essentially an extended audition. What he needs is clear: at least one race win, advancement through playoff rounds, and the elimination of the unforced errors and mechanical setbacks that have defined too many weekends. What he cannot afford is more afternoons like COTA, where the television cameras capture him sitting on the pit wall while the other 2311 car disappears into a cloud of confetti. The question is no longer whether Wallace has talent. The question is whether talent alone satisfies an organization chasing championships, and that question follows him into every remaining race. One mechanical failure did not end a career, but it accelerated a timeline that nobody inside 2311 Racing wanted to acknowledge publicly. If you made it through this entire breakdown, you understand why the COTA weekend was about far more than a power steering hose. Hit the like button so this analysis reaches the fans who want the full story. Subscribe to this channel for weekly NASCAR reporting that goes deeper than the headlines. Drop a comment and tell us: does Bubba Wallace secure his future?